Hi, I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Cindy.
And we're here with another Feeding Frenzy for the Master Key System. We're on part 1, day 35.
A majority of mankind lives in the world without. Few have found the world within, and yet it is the world within that makes the world without. It is therefore creative, and everything which you find in your world without has been created by you in the world within.
I so totally agree with that. 100%.
You agree that few have found the world within?
Mm-hmm. I do.
How come they don't find it? What keeps them from finding it? Why is it so hard to find?
Do you want to know what I honestly think? I think we are so afraid to accept responsibility that we choose to look for something else outside of us. I can't possibly be responsible for this and then list the reasons. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think we're so afraid to look at our own responsibility that we'll choose to look anywhere and at anything else to avoid it. And that's good or bad.
Do you feel like we're responsible for everything that happens to us and around us?
I do, in some way. I may not be able to see it. I may not be able to tell you what my responsibility is. But I know that just the decisions I make ripples in places I don't even know about.
Do you believe that things don't happen to you unless you want them to happen or unless you've invited them in somehow? So I do too, but I was in a study once on, I forget what the universe is calling or something. It was one of the, what's his name? The Unity guy that you like so much. That wrote all the books.
Eric Butterworth?
Yeah, it was one of his studies.
Yeah.
And this couple was there, and their son had been murdered. And they were having a real hard time seeing how he could have wanted that to happen, or could have invited that to happen, or allowed it to happen, or chosen to die after he had been shot. And I, it threw me for a loop too. I'm like, okay, I don't get it either. I wouldn't, if it were my child, I wouldn't want to believe that they wanted that to happen or allowed it to happen. So how do you answer that?
I don't know how to answer that. And the only thing that I can say, especially in something like that, is they were either, even being in the wrong place at the wrong time is still something, a decision that you made.
Yeah.
So I don't know that necessarily the outcome is what you drew in. But the decision that you made that put you there definitely falls on your own shoulders. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. I don't know any of the details.
I don't know any of the details, but it doesn't matter what the details are. Even if it's just you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or the decision that you made, or the people that you were hanging around with, and this was the consequences of it. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. There is no way that I can see in order to place an absolute, this is what you did, which caused this.
Right.
This. You'd have to find the original domino before it pushed all the rest. Do you see what I'm saying? So in situations like that, I think there's too many dominoes lined up in order to figure out which one got pushed. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I agree. It just made me think a lot, I tell you. Because, I don't want to have to say I'm responsible for this cough I've got either. I don't want to say this is my fault and it's something I'm doing if I just quit doing it. Or if I give in to whatever I need to be doing. Or somehow I'm responsible for this. And I don't want to be. So that's hard for me a lot of times.
I get that.
And for people who have severe illnesses, I can see why it would be hard to say I brought this on myself. Because it certainly isn't my intention to be sick.
Right. But there's something in you that's in dis-ease. What it is, I can tell you. I don't know. I don't know what that domino is. Coming off an illness myself, I didn't want to be sick either. I didn't want the consequence of whatever the choices were. But I ended up with them nonetheless.
Right.
Now, does that mean I ended up with the cold because I made this choice? I don't know. But I definitely ended up with an immune system that wasn't strong enough to fight the cold. And it added in another element. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's really difficult to assign cause and effect when there are so many different avenues it could take, and factors and avenues it could have taken.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard for me to say, yeah, I decided to go to the store and that's why I ended up getting murdered. You know what I'm saying? There's too many factors involved there. Mm-hmm. But do I believe that if we had a way to judge that, we could follow all of the dominoes back to, then it's going to lead to some kind of decision I made, even if it's 4 years ago I made the decision. Or, do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Right. So, I guess most of us have lived in the outer world at some point in our lives. Mm-hmm. Most of us. Mm-hmm. And something wakes us up to get us to look at the inner world.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. But few have found the world within. And I find that very sad that our society doesn't point them to that more. Mm-hmm. And I think we're getting a little better at it. Mm-hmm. But we're still not there yet. There's still a lot of people who never looked at the world within, which is really sad. It is.
What kept me looking personally was it didn't matter where I went to ask the questions that I wanted answers to. It all stopped at just turn it over to God. Mm-hmm. That wasn't good enough for me. Mm-hmm. That wasn't good enough for me. Mm-hmm. I can't just turn it over. I want to understand why. Nobody could answer that question for me.
Right.
So I had to start seeking the answers here. Mm-hmm. And I started doing that by looking at, well, what makes sense to me? Mm-hmm. What rings bells for me?
Right.
What feels good for me? Mm-hmm. What sounds like truth for me? And then I had to start digging.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But that for me was the catalyst. I had to think, this doesn't feel right to me. This doesn't sound right to me. I can't swallow that one. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started looking. So for me, my questioning didn't take me down an awful path. It took me inwards. Mm-hmm. And I had to start understanding me more.
Mm-hmm. And realizing who you really are.
And realizing who I really am. Mm-hmm. Which led me to more questions, which led me deeper, you know. And I'm still in a very shallow place in myself. Mm-hmm. And I know that because every time I dig a little deeper, there's more and more questions.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, I wanted to know truth, and I wanted to find somebody who could tell me the truth. You know, and then when my oldest Matthew was sick as a baby, and I realized the doctors who were supposedly the authorities didn't have a clue, it really made me start questioning everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm so thankful that it did, because it forced me to turn inward. Mm-hmm. Thank God.
That's good stuff.
Thank God. Very good.
Shrink.